Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley. Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley.
That's right.
Warning. Warning.
You have entered the propaganda report with Brad Binkley. I am your host, and I hope everybody had a good No Kings weekend. There was one up near where I live. It was more like a no people type of rally. There was 3 people there and like 8 signs. 3 people doing a lot of the work. I admired their effort. They should have been at the downtown rally on Saturday instead of organizing one of their own on Sunday. They did have the woman on Saturday here in Atlanta, which I've talked about a number of times, who is in a wheelchair, a powered wheelchair, and she hires people because she put one of these job opportunities on Instagram, and I'd seen the videos before, where she seeks people to come wear Trump masks, and before it was Trump and Elon, and they get on all fours in the Trump mask, and she pulls them behind her. She's very obese in this wheelchair, and she's usually wearing some sort of bondage type outfit. It's very probably attractive to some, disgusting to others. And she pulls them behind them. She was there in full effect. I've been meaning to catch this woman for an interview, but I've yet to do it. So I'm sorry I missed the opportunity. Would have been a good opportunity. Good evening, Grubinator. Good to see you. So I want to remind you guys before we dive in that this Saturday, April 4th, at the Helium Comedy Club in Atlanta, well, Alpharetta, what white people in Atlanta call Atlanta, I will be opening for Sam Tripoli at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock at the Helium Comedy Club. Sam Tripoli and a friend of Sam's who's going to be featuring Howie Dewey. So we will be doing 2 shows there. So get your tickets now. You can get them at Sam's site or Helium Comedy Club Atlanta. Type it in your search bar. It will show up. Sam doesn't get many opportunities to come down here, so it will be a good time. Probably an appropriate time. Just a little bit of warning. But it will be fun nevertheless. All right, so people are just tearing each other apart on social media right now. Just tearing each other apart like they like to do. And they're doing it over a story which has been one of the most divisive on these platforms. This pseudo-reality. This isn't reality. It's a pseudo-reality that we call social media. And they're fighting over the trial of the person being accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson is his name. And have to qualify because that's what you have to do with a story. I am not connected to the outcome of this trial or whatever the conclusion most people determined happened here. I am focused on the process of getting to the truth and the obstacles that get in the way, many of which are intentional, that intend to short circuit people's critical thinking and their ability to make their own choice using emotional appeals and bandwagon propaganda effect, which social media is incredibly effective at, and snapshotting headlines and whatnot. So I'm merely going to be pointing out information that a whole number of people online either don't care about because it doesn't fit into their confirmation bias, or they haven't looked at because they ran with a headline that did fit into their confirmation bias. And this story is obviously about the new, use air quotes, evidence that's been revealed, new, not evidence, excuse me, new, because it's not new, in the Charlie Kirk murder case, what it means and what it does not mean. And it all started with this headline in the Daily Mail. And I want to ask you guys, regardless of what you think happened or what you feel emotionally pulled to and what the outcome is here, my focus here is on the Daily Mail, the way they presented the article, and then the way they immediately undermined their headline, and then the way everybody, all these people online, ran with the headline, ignoring the statements in the article. This is a propaganda show. It's about analyzing propaganda. And whatever. I'm not saying that this information is meaningless that's been presented, which was already known, by the way. For months, this stuff was known. This is nothing new. Candace Owens herself said this stuff on her show a few months ago, didn't really follow up much on it. So my point isn't to say one person's true or another. It's to point out the deceptive practices used by the Daily Mail and the willingness of people to just run with it. It doesn't mean that the opposite is true. It just means we're giving our deceivers power when we allow them to do things like this. And that's what I do. That's what I focus on. I don't care what the outcome is. Look at this headline. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Bullet used to kill Charlie Kirk did not, it has not, in all caps, did not match rifle allegedly used by suspect Tyler Robinson, new court filing claims. That seems like a pretty damning, for the prosecution, piece of information. That the bullet did not, in the affirmative, it did not match the rifle. If only that is what was actually said. That is not at all what was said. What this headline says is not at all what was said. Again, people don't like to live in the nuance, but that's what we do on this show. If you scroll down just a little bit further, which apparently everybody only looked at the snapshot, and again, it doesn't mean that it's meaningless information. It's not. I don't know what happened. But I know when I see propaganda trying to short circuit people's thinking and convince them of one conclusion over another, which is what this is. You scroll down a little bit, and the very first sentence after that headline, which was in the affirmative that it did not appear, Charlie, the bullet used did not, in all caps, match the rifle. Then the first sentence, the bullet that killed conservative commentator Charlie Kirk may not match the rifle used by suspect Tyler Robinson. So it went from did not, in all caps with a not, to may not in the first sentence. That's very different. And then you go further to the second and third paragraphs here. Robinson facing capital murder charges and potential death sentence for Kirk's murder. That's what he's facing. Then it says, but his defense attorneys now argue that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives was, quote, unable to identify the bullet recovered at autopsy to the rifle alleged to Mr. Robinson. So we have already went from did not to may not to, oh, wait, what it actually said was they were unable. Those are different things. And it is true that bullet fragmentation, which, and I point to Candace Owens saying this in her show a few months ago because I was surprised she actually said it, that the bullet was fragmented and it could not be recovered fully. She said that on her show, and that's been reports through court filings and whatnot. This has been out there. This is merely a reporting of this, except the defense is using this as a way to present evidence to say that there's no connection from the bullet to the gun, which I would absolutely do that if I was the defense lawyer. I'm not giving them junk for doing that. That's what a defense lawyer does. They should do that. My point is, this article that's causing everybody to fight online, it just goes from one end to the other. It conveys two opposite points because it doesn't want people thinking. It wants people doing exactly what people are doing online. That's fighting amongst each other without actually thinking and getting in the nuance. Because social media is designed to trigger your emotions and cause you to fight unthinkingly and use the bandwagon effect to jump on board of whatever the biggest influencer is, who you like, who is propagating them. And you're sharing these screenshots of this. It's just unbelievable. I'm not making an argument one way or another. I'm pointing out that the argument that people are making that this is conclusive evidence that the gun doesn't match the bullet, that is not what this argument, that's not what this finding says. I'm not saying that it says it does. It doesn't say either way. This is a common thing in murder trials. This is not something that's rare. When it comes to shots at that distance, that according to autopsies or the people involved, and I don't know what's true or what's not with that. All I'm saying is based on what we know, this is not uncommon. And this headline is intentionally deceptive, and it caused a firestorm of people to scream and yell at each other and declare victory. When Candace herself, who pointed this out like a month and a half ago, and then pretended like it was brand new information yesterday, she said it. It's these people, they're playing you for fools. They insult you by treating you like children who are unthinking, emotional beings who have no capability of engaging in nuance and logic. I don't care what the outcome is, but would you trust someone who used it? People are so eager, like quick to just run with things that people who are and organizations that are obvious deceivers, a reputation of doing nothing but that. That's like everyone in the mainstream. It's most people on every side of this. Simply because the things that they say appeal to the side or that they're preconditioned to believe in. They don't care about. Do you want to give these types of people power? Do we want to respond emotionally to our fellow citizens because these con artists are good at using the power and resources and platforms they have to trigger our emotions based on their well-funded research around what does exactly that? I personally do not. I will live in the weeds of this forever and for every investigation because that's the only way to not be subjected to these emotional appeals of these high-powered propagandists on all sides of this. It's unbelievable. It's just such a simple thing. Nobody should be disagreeing about any of this because this information isn't new. It changes nothing. And yet it causes this firestorm. And it causes people to, like, here's another story that got kind of ignored related to that. Hold on, let me switch it over here. And this actually makes sense why they would do what they did. Because the defense, and they're doing their job. I'm not criticizing them. They're doing exactly what I would do if I was a defense lawyer. But when you get a story like this one here, parents and boyfriend, Tyler Robinson, parents and boyfriend, of Tyler Robinson, you shouldn't really misgender him right there. It's furry friend. To testify for the prosecution in the murder trial. And this story is tied to that other one. Utah prosecutors in the Charlie Kirk assassination case against Tyler Robinson are preparing to call some people closest to him as witnesses as his defense attorneys push to delay proceedings and raise new challenges to key forensic evidence. I've been telling people on this show for months that this is exactly what they were doing. I expect, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I expect there to be more than just these three testifying. But I have said for a long time that the mom, the dad, and Twigs the furry are going to testify. And that I think some of the others in the Discord chat will as well, because I think they were all involved in something that were probably influenced by some undercover agent. But it's much easier to offer immunity to people to testify against one person who they can identify as being at the location on the day than it is to convict a group of people, all of whom except one were not there on the day. And so this is exactly what you would expect in a trial like this. Does it mean he's guilty? No, it doesn't. But when you have information coming out that the prosecutors are going to put the parents on the stand, and if this is a lie, then the parents should come out and say so. But they had Twigs in protective custody for months because of this. It wasn't because they were trying to protect his safety. It was because they were trying to protect the safety of a key witness is why they were doing that. There was a weird meeting that people saw happen at his house before. A lot of weird stuff going on that Candace Owens could really use her power to investigate that as well as investigating the other stuff. Does it mean all of the story they tell us is true? It's not. It's definitely not. I don't know what's true. But the reason why you want to bring into question evidence that's already been known because you're trying to be a good defense lawyer is when you have a story, when you find out that the parents and the boyfriend are going to be testifying. Does that mean they're telling the truth? No, of course not. Doesn't. Maybe somebody got to them, who knows? But nevertheless, when you're in a trial, That's not good for your case. From a perspective of a defense lawyer, prosecution says the parents, the mom, dad, the boyfriend at the center of everything, and the boyfriend is going to be asked if the text messages are all weird. We all know they're weird, but the boyfriend's going to be asked if they can be corroborated. If he's testifying for the prosecution, he's going to say yes. He's going to give more context to it. When you have all that happening as a defense attorney, you got to do something that throws a wrench into that in the public perception sphere. And that's exactly what this story is. And they're asking for 6 months to go through all the information that's been given to them. They're trying to delay the trial of the defense. These are all good moves by the defense. But let's not act like there's something they're not. They're not convincing evidence of disproving anything or proving anything. They're neither. They're nothing. They're exactly what we already knew, framed in a different way to get clicks by a media outlet known to do just that. Now, if that satisfies your confirmation bias, reading just to the headline, then by all means, that's fine. But don't act like you're pursuing truth because of that. Don't act like your inclinations are any evidence-based theory or idea, because none of ours are. Doesn't prove it either way. Does it disprove it? I don't care what the outcome is. I side with none of these people. Make no mistake about that. It's just crazy how these puppeteers are able to engineer this emotionally based scenario. They can push all these linguistic landmine triggers and cause regular people to go at each other, not realize they're having their strings pulled, and nobody's actually looking for the truth. And they think they are. Maybe not all of them. A lot of them know they're doing it to get clicks. A lot of them are very good at it to get clicks. It's very easy to do that. It's very easy. This article continues. In the Friday court filing, attorneys for Robinson revealed that the prosecution intended to call Robinson's parents and his roommate and romantic partner to testify. At the preliminary hearing, this will be next month. That's a smart move by the prosecutors, in my opinion. And then they say that hearing is scheduled for May 18th, and although Robinson's legal team is seeking to delay it 6 months, and they're citing evidence that they must review, the defense attorney said they received more than 600,000 files during a March 12 discovery meeting with additional materials outstanding. That's not uncommon. Even if people tell you it is, it's not. Quote, discovery in this case is incomplete, voluminous, and the processing of it is complex. Adding that a forensic expert would need months to analyze the evidence. And that's exactly what somebody being a good defense attorney would say. Not just in this case, but in any. At the same time, Robinson's team is attempting to cast doubt on one of the prosecution's key forensic components, the bullet used in the killing. According to the court filings from the defense, a bureau of alcohol, we talked about this, tobacco and firearms and explosives, analysis comparing a bullet jacket fragment recovered during Kirk's autopsy with a rifle obtained by law enforcement was ultimately inconclusive. And that's the accurate description. The fragment was too damaged to definitively match any specific firearm, a limitation that is not uncommon in high-velocity firearm cases. It's also true. The defense has suggested that this inconclusive result could be exculpatory, but prosecutors argue the finding does not undermine the broader case, and the filing itself indicates the comparison simply could not yield a definitive match due to the condition of the fragment. Do they need to provide evidence that goes beyond a reasonable doubt, absent the ability to connect the bullet that's fragmented to the gun? Of course they do. Of course. That's why the trial needs to be public. But this stuff was already known. Why is it just now blowing up as a story? Because they made this filing. People like Candace knew this before. They made nothing of it before. Robinson's emphasis on the point is likely to face scrutiny as the case progresses, particularly as prosecutors build their case through witness testimony and other forms of evidence. And given the evidence of one unfired bullet casing that read, "Hey, fascist." Now, I mean, a lot of this evidence is not based, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt right now. but they don't put everything in the indictment. That they only need to get the indictment. They only need to have probable cause. So there's going to be a trial. It needs to be public, and they need to make their case. And I thought this was interesting. Meanwhile, Robinson's attorneys are also seeking to restrict public visibility into the case. That's interesting to me. At an April 17 hearing, the court will consider April 17. Yeah, the court will consider defense motion to ban cameras from future proceedings. So the defense's motion to ban cameras from future proceedings. Does that not strike you as interesting? It would behoove the defense to ban cameras, because if you have cameras and you can show the public what's going on, then you can knock out some of these theories that people are running with. But if you get cameras out of there, then it enables some of those to continue, which can make it easier for them to get a jury that they can convince that their client's innocent. I'm not saying he's guilty, but what I'm saying is this is a smart move by the defense. This is what I would do. Why wouldn't you do this? You want to keep as much shadow of a doubt in the minds of potential jurors as possible. This is a smart move by them, but it's also, I don't even want to say if it's revealing, honestly. Because even somebody who's completely innocent, if public opinion is against them, I don't know. It's a hard argument to make as to why you don't want cameras in there, because that's the only thing that anybody is going to believe. And this case is not just about the jury. This case is about what the public believes. That's why it's going to be really crazy. It's going to be great ratings, though. They're going to miss out on a lot of ratings, a lot of advertisement opportunities if they don't make it public. It'll be crazy if they don't make it public. The defense argues extensive media coverage could prejudice Robinson's right to a fair trial, saying it plans to present examples of harmful and prejudicial reporting. I'd like to see what they presented there, because I think you could argue the exact opposite. You could make that argument on both sides. The prosecution has a lot of material to argue against that. The case has already seen legal clashes. In February, Judge Tony Graff rejected a defense effort to disqualify prosecutors over an alleged conflict of interest tied to the prosecutor whose daughter attended the event where Kirk was killed. All right, so that's all that. No, here's something about twigs. The defendant previously expressed that opposition to Kirk's conservative activism drove him to the point of conspiring to assassinate him, according to evidence from his home taken by authorities. But he has pled not guilty. Let's be clear about that. So they should include that here. In a note found by Twigs under Robinson's keyboard, this is all the stuff that's in the indictment. He wrote that he had the opportunity. We've all heard that. All right, that stuff they'll litigate at court. What's up, guys? Good to see you guys. Hi, good to see you. It's just, I guess it's an unreasonable expectation for anybody who makes their living off of social media to be in any way reasonable about this stuff, because that's not going to get clicks. Why be reasonable when you can just put a headline that's completely divisive, that the article completely undermines the headline immediately? Think about how dumb the publishers of that article must think their audience is. They say, let's put this headline, which conveys something that's definitely not true, and we will soften our position and show that the headline's not true in the first sentence, and in the second sentence, we'll show that it's not even close. And no one will even read that. Our readers will only read the headline because they're so stupid that we can put the truth right below it, and none of them will read it, and they will cause a social media war over it. It's insulting. And I would think that how insulting that must feel. I would think it would feel more insulting than it would feel good to share a headline that's even the publication disproves, simply because it satisfies your confirmation bias. Why? Like, they're playing people for fools. if you're going to make your argument using what's true, not what's false. That's what pisses me off about all of this. I don't care what anybody's argument is. I don't judge them for it. I don't care what the conclusion is. Make your arguments based on what's true and not based on propaganda that's easily proven false. Because what else will they convince us of if we are so easily bamboozled? Sorry to be both an anti-Semite and a 7K shill in such a short segment there. I apologize to all of you cocksuckers who react that way. And make no mistake, if you react that way, you are very much a cocksucker. I mean that in a derogatory sense. It's like, how do we stir the news cycle and keep people engaged to some bullshit? And it's really impressive. Take marketing advice from all of this, the way that they do all this stuff. Because they're sure profiting off of it. Cum dumpsters. All right, nevertheless, let's move on to a more wholesome story, I think. Maybe you guys saw some of this. There was a stripper who has been revealing some of the secrets that apparently some young soldiers have told her. I think there's something a little more to this story. Or maybe a little less, depending on the way you look at it. The headline is, Stripper Reveals U.S. Troops Are Babbling to her about being deployed. You know, when you hear stripper reveals, you expect a little flash. Okay, not some secrets. Sometimes some secrets. But in the process, they're also blowing up operational security. This is all kind of dumb. But I'm going to let her, there she is. She has the pink hair, the color that you might see a Starbucks barista have, but not the outfit. Definitely not the outfit. Little pink dog, old dog in a pink collar, and I don't know if that's a fluffy butt plug. I don't know what that is. But here's the video where she is describing what she says that soldiers who are spending a lot of their money on her, spending all their money, and they're depressed because, according to her, they're about to be deployed.
Okay, so I work at a strip club next to like several military bases, and something I have noticed lately is all the military guys are coming in and they're spending all of their money, and they're just like, it's sad, like they're like kind of depressed, and they're like just coming in like, oh yeah, we're gonna have fun, like we're getting, what is it called, deployed, like we're getting deployed next week, or like this is happening. I don't know, I don't want to spread misinformation or anything, but it's just like, a lot of them are really kind, and to see these like young guys that look like my pinky toe, like they're like fetuses coming in and then dancing with them and then being like bye, and then
Does she give a lot of lap dances to fetuses that look like pinky toes?
It's actually like making me emotional. Like it's fucked up.
That's her claim. That's not much to that claim. There she is again. Wait, I don't know. She's near a base, I think is it Key West that she's near a base in? What's her, I almost said comedy. Oh, San Diego dancer, Charm Days. That's her name, Charm Days. She has 900,000 followers online. It says shared an emotional video late Sunday. That's not an emotional video. She was not emotional at all. Is it possible? So let's game this out. You're a soldier. You're about to be deployed, and the idea is you're going to be deployed in, I guess, I don't know, Iran or Israel. I don't know, whatever. Probably Iran. What would you potentially say? Well, I'm going to go maybe die at war. I guess I better go spend all my money on Charm Days here at the, I don't know the name of the strip club. Pink Pony South. Maybe. That's believable. Is it possible that we're going to deploy soldiers, boots on the ground? Yeah, it's definitely possible. Let me present a third option I don't know which of these are true, but perhaps these young men were doing what guys do sometimes, and they were playing to the sympathies of a stripper. Hey, I'm about to be deployed. This is you're the last woman I'm going to see before I'm boots on the ground in Iran, to see if they can get a little extra dance for their dollar. I definitely know people who've done that. I know people who aren't even in the military who claim to be and said they were being deployed for this specific reason. That's why I hesitate to say this is evidence that soldiers are being deployed, because horny dudes will say anything to a stripper. Let's be honest. Especially you're 18 to 22, you'll say anything to keep charm days on that D. Keep charm days and on that D. I'm about to be deployed. I'm so depressed. Sub JC. But maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if they're being deployed, though. That's also, each possibility, I think, is equally plausible here. Well, why is that not showing properly? I took that off. That's crazy. Oh my goodness, I just realized that when I take that thing, sorry, I'm looking at StreamYard. I didn't know that if I minimize that screen, that it takes the whole stream off of StreamYard. I feel really stupid now. I'm glad I know. JC says, I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing fake strippers. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Make that a little bigger so I can see the whole comment. Fake strippers regurgitating intentional disinfo on social media, pretending to leak secret intel. I wouldn't either. Remember those PSYOP chicks? Haven't seen a lot of them lately. I'm sure they're still out there. But it was like these really smoking hot e-girls. And they're like riding around in a tank and they're just smoking hot, trying to get dudes to join the military. Imagine a dude joining. Let me see if I can find one of those. It makes me think of that. E-girl military recruitment. They were on TikTok, I think. Man, I do not like Bing at all. I don't like Google either, but Bing is worse, I think. What do you guys think? What do you got? What search engine that's normal? I know we all have our Tora and our deep web search engines, but which ones do you guys use? I think this is one of them. No, it's not a conspiracy. Internet simping over Army e-girls. All right, so I'm just gonna show you guys because I don't want to see like some dude's like random take on it. But it's like this chick right here is one of them that I would see all the time on TikTok when it comes to, because I would look up military recruiting ads, and this chick would come up all the time. And she's on a tank, and she's like, you look her up, and it says she was in like a psychological, didn't say operation, but a psychological unit of the military. And all her videos were just like, I mean, it's borderline OnlyFans for the military. And I just thought, I thought that was funny, because imagine joining the military because you think you're going to bang that girl. And you show up and you're like, I'm here. I'm ready for war. Where's that hot chick? I'm ready to bang her. And it's just nothing but dudes. Wait a minute. I didn't sign up to be around all these dudes. Where are the hot e-girls? And then once they're charged up, then you send them to war because they're so angry and they want to kill somebody. Because the hot e-girl's not there. The government is always trying to seem authentic with their propaganda. You can count anything. You can't count anything out at this point. You're right. Yeah, they do have this pursuit, this endless pursuit of authenticity, which is an interesting thing because it doesn't seem like the public-facing people we see have achieved it. I don't think they have. Their AI certainly hasn't. I think the people who believe that, the politicians we see and the AI stuff, I think they just want to believe, and so they do. But if they did achieve the authenticity, it'd be hard to recognize, wouldn't it? That's the catch-22 there. To achieve perfect authenticity, how do you determine it? How do you even, I guess if you're a politician at all, maybe that's the determination. Even if you seem to be the most authentic politician, by the very fact that you are a politician, it is disqualifying no matter how authentic you seem. That's a rough standard, but it's almost what we got to play these days. All right. Get rid of that. This is just a quick one. And be honest, this is more me. This is more of I told you so. And I know I shouldn't do stories like this, but if I see it, I got to point it out. And the people pardoned by Trump, the people Trump pardoned are on a crime spree. When Trump first pardoned these people, I did a show and I tried to speak to as many of those who might listen, which is probably very few. And I said, don't mess it up for everyone, guys. The people are mostly with you because most of you have been wrongly prosecuted. Most of you have been detained wrongfully. Your rights have been violated. That was not an insurrection at all. The people are on your side. You've been pardoned. The people are celebrating. Now, don't ruin it for everybody because I know, this is what I said at the time, I know one of you is going to go molest someone and you're going to ruin it for everybody because that'll be the first thing that's blasted all over the media. Person Trump pardoned diddled somebody. And here we are. There has been occasional stories about it. Now they've put together a comprehensive list and they've framed it as a crime spree, which, by the way, every single president, you can look this up, the people they've pardoned, there's been a number of people who have then committed crimes. They've recommitted afterwards and been arrested. They've been rearrested. So it's not like this is rare, but they frame it as though it's rare to make it look at a hammer of justice. Okay. Looks like, oh, that's Trump's pen. That's cute. That's a nice little move there by the, what is this, the New York Times. They make the gavel Trump's pardon pen there, and they have Donald J. Trump written on it. They spent more time in the artwork than they did the intellectual argument that they didn't make. So I'm just going down to the people, the people who have been arrested again. Let's see what they did. Now everybody who's been pardoned is going to look like this. You could be a perfectly innocent person who's done nothing and never did anything, wrongly persecuted, but because of these people, if they are guilty of any of this, you now are going to be branded as them. Andrew Paul Johnson, this is the one they put first. Of course they put him first. On March 5th, a Florida court sentenced him to life in prison for molesting a 12-year-old boy and girl, two 12-year-olds. And to keep them quiet, he promised to bequeath them a part of the January 6th restitution payment. Okay, so that's what a piece of trash. Ruining it for everybody. Jake Long destroyed an ice sculpture outside Minnesota State Capitol, leading to a felony vandalism charge, and he organized an anti-Muslim rally in New York City that turned violent. Okay. So he was caught on January 6th with a camera storming the Capitol with a baseball bat and a riot shield. All right, so I would look into this case. This guy, he destroyed an ice sculptor. That's not a crime spree. Come on. And define anti-Muslim rally, please, and define violence. So you see how weak it is. They start with a molestation, terrible. Then they go to this very shady one where it's like, I need to see the details of this to know what this guy actually did and if he's guilty. In May, Zachary Allam, arrested for breaking into a house in Virginia and stealing a tablet computer and a diamond necklace. Now, he had been arrested on January 6th. He was among the first to enter the Capitol building on the West Lawn. At a sentence hearing, he was unrepentant. He said, sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. So what are we looking at here? He was arrested for breaking into a house in Virginia and stealing a tablet. So that sounds to me like it's maybe a domestic dispute. I don't know. But again, if it were something awful, as bad as molestation, then they would include it. I'm not saying what he did was not a crime. But you can see the way they shade these things. They're all so deceitful. Just tell the fucking story, you pieces of shit. You fucking pieces of shit media fucks. Tell the fucking real story. Go fuck yourself. Enrique, that's the guy, the Proud Boys guy. Yeah, he's arrested again he was briefly detained after scuffling with protesters. That's what all these people do. They intentionally get arrested. Daniel Tocco sentenced to 4 years in prison for possession of child pornography. That's a bad one. I mean, that's terrible. If that's true, put him in prison. Here's another one. On March 1st, Brian Betancourt grabbed a woman's hair on the Washington Metro, leading to charge of assault and battery. At least 2 women have also accused him of stalking. He's already on probation for burglary. So he's a creep. When you pardon 1,100 people, this is what I was saying in the show before, 3% or so of those people are going to be child molesters. And a little bit higher percentage of that are going to be people who they can't help but, pull somebody's hair and stalk somebody when they're rejected. That's true for the Biden pardons, for the Obama pardons. All right. I mean, some of these guys, they did a little bit. Some of them they did some bad shit. Some of them they didn't really. But what was their ultimate, purpose of this article here? Okay. The outcome was predictable. Let's see what it said. The results have been disastrous, talking about his pardons. At least 12 of the pardon writers have been charged with other serious crimes, including child molestation, harassment, assault, murder plots, and charges related to a vicious dog attack. The outcome was predictable. Critics, including this board, had warned Mr. Trump that his pardons would embolden the rioters by signaling the crime has no consequences. You can't connect those dots. That's not what's going on here. What's going on here is that there was an event that attracted people who have an inclination towards committing crime, and it was a very minority of people. Any event that has over 1,000 people, there's going to be a small percentage of people who just get in trouble with the law all the time because they can't control themselves. So this is no different than any large gathering, and yet it's being framed as we tried to tell them. One does not have to be a criminologist to predict that people who commit a violent act is not a violent act. It's so stupid. I don't even know why I covered that story. What a waste. What a dumb story. I hate all these publications. I hate them so much. All right. I think this is the last thing I'm going to do today. Oh, well, one other quick story. Just because it's interesting, kind of. There was this chick who had sex with these 2 identical twins. Initially, my question is, did she know? That's the real question there, right? A woman who has sex with 2 identical twins, did she know or did she think she was having sex with the same one? Because that's an important fact, especially in a paternity case. Or, I mean, is that rape? I don't know. That's like what's the area there? What's the law there on that? How closely are you paying attention to the differences? I have no idea. It doesn't tell you that stuff. That's what I wanted to know. But nevertheless, the headline is woman had sex with identical twins, told that it's not possible to identify the father of the baby that she had or is having. No, she had the baby. Imagine that. She had sex with these 2 identical twins within 4 days of each other, so she must have known that it was different, that it was the 2 different ones. Well, you're here. You look the same. I guess that's how it went. But she's been told by a court, I think this is the UK, that they can't decide, they can't figure out which one. There's not the technology to exist right now. They say by the time the kid is 18, they might be able to determine it. But right now, they cannot legally say one is the father or the other. Because her and one of the brothers launched the legal action because one of them wanted to be legally recognized as having parental responsibility for the kid. So the brother that was named as the father on the birth certificate, the other brother and the chick wanted him removed and them put on. So she must have been dating the one brother. It's the details unsaid here that are most interesting. The kid is known as Child P. A family court declined to remove the name of the alleged father on the birth certificate, prompting the woman and the other twin to take the case to the Court of Appeal in London. This is what the judge said. He said, it is possible, indeed likely, that by the time baby P reaches maturity, it may be possible for science to identify one father and exclude the other twin. But for the coming time, that cannot be done without significant cost. So her, quote, truth is binary, talking about the baby, and not a single man. Isn't that crazy? This kid's going to grow up and neither the parents nor the baby is going to know which is the father. They're both uncle dad. And it sounds like both the guys want to be the father. I mean, if anything, that's good. There's a lot of people who have nobody who wants to be the father. Here you have this British kid. You got two guys wanting to be the father. I mean, that's white privilege, if I've ever seen it. See some black baby, two dads trying to claim to be the father. That's not something, we won't go into that realm. Sir Andrew, which I guess is the judge, said the failure to prove a fact means that the fact is not proved. It does not mean that the contrary is proved. Oh, I pulled that quote because it stuck with me based on what people are arguing when it comes to that already known information about the bullet fragment. The failure to prove a fact means that the fact is not proved. It does not mean that the contrary is proved. That's a good quote. There's a distinction between something being proven and making a positive declaration that the fact asserted is not true. Very, very relatable to that other story. But I have to say, don't bang two identical twins when you're ovulating. This is what happens. What if one of them gets really, really rich? That's the one you want to get the alimony from. Unfortunately, this is a little bit of gender bias here because a guy can do the same thing. A guy can get two identical twin females pregnant, and you do know who the mother is in both those situations. So not everything is equal. At least wait till your next ovulation cycle before you bang the other identical twin. Okay. Check this out. I'm sure you saw this. Matt Gaetz. Both of these guys, I don't like either one of these guys at all, but I'm going to play the clip. Anyway, Matt Gaetz and Benny Johnson. Just Benny Johnson, such a homosexual grifter. What's up, big hands? So Matt Gaetz told Benny Johnson earlier today that he was briefed on not only is there a alien program or crash retrieval program talking about UFO aliens, that he was told that there was also a crossbreeding, hybrid human alien breeding program. Not that we should take anything either one of these two jackasses say, but here's what he said.
I think the most important information will be the biologics that are not human that have been discovered. And like even some of the briefings that aren't classified just need to be out in the public. I mean, I had someone come and brief me who was in a military uniform, worked for the United States Army, that was briefing me on the locations of hybrid breeding programs where captured aliens were breeding with humans to create some hybrid race that could engage in intergalactic communication. An actual uniformed member of the United States Army briefed me on that.
Non-human biologics, interracial alien mating?
You said interracial alien mating?
What the F is going on? Look, wait a second. You had whistleblowers tell you this kind of thing? Can you please unpack that?
Yeah, I had.
Is he wearing an earring or is that just his green screen, Benny Johnson? It looks like he's wearing an earring.
I had a guy who was uniformed. He was a senior enlisted with the United States Army. Came into my office in Crestview, Florida, in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and from even the caravans of migrants. Now, again, I didn't verify this, but what the whistleblower
I mean, this is rape that's being described.
was telling me is that there were like between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened. And what he wanted was a group, members of Congress, to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to wanted was a group, members of Congress, to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to simultaneously show up at like 8 locations at one time. And so that never occurred.
What do you mean non-human biologics? Like this?
Well, that was the testimony.
That's your question right there. He just describes forced rape, not only by the humans who have been caught in war zones. So what is this, like Afghanis, Iranians? Who are these people who've been caught and are prisoners? We have you prisoner. We can't let you go home until you have sex with this, four-headed alien or whatever it looks like. I mean, if it's a very attractive alien, then maybe it's not so much. But I would like to hear an argument that it is not rape, that they were willing, that they were so attractive. Because right now, he's describing. I was told there's a rape program going on, and a crossbreeding rape program going on with prisoners of war. And this is Benny Johnson, earring Benny Johnson, who looks like Rachel Maddow, as JC pointed out. Rachel Maddow, who dyed her hair with some blonde highlights. That's his question, is what are biologics? That's interesting. There's a crossbreeding rape program going on to create species that can cross-communicate. He hears that, and his question is, well, what exactly are biologics? That's my question.
Testimony at time, and so that never occurred.
What do you mean non-human biologics? Like this?
Well, that was the testimony of David Grush before the House Oversight Committee, which I joined, and the testimony was that in crashes of craft that had been recovered by the CIA and through a special program that the CIA had for crash recovery, that it wasn't just the hard materials, it was also biologics, but that they couldn't identify a human source of those biologics.
Okay. Wow, it's very informative. David Grush is literally retarded. What do you guys think they're doing with all this? To me, all this alien stuff is discredited at its main source, David Grush, who was one of the main launching points of this second wave of the narrative. The first one started with the New York Times in 2017 and Tucker Carlson saying there's a warehouse in Vegas that has material that is not understood by human science. It's making people sick, and they slow rolled it over a couple of years. And David Grush a couple of years ago comes out and he says, I interviewed all these people, and there's a crash retrieval program going on. That's what all this stuff is based on. He didn't see any of it firsthand. All of it is secondhand. And as it turns out, according to the person who initially interviewed David Grush, he later said David Grush is socially autistic and he doesn't understand human emotion. So he's interviewing a bunch of intel people and he has no idea if they're being sarcastic or not. That's who we want to rely on for all of our information, is this guy who doesn't understand. It's also stupid, and it's also placating and insulting. I've always thought they're going to turn it around and say, well, that it's like our adversaries, but after they use it, the threat of it to to pump up the military industrial complex and say, we got to build more weapons because look at all these. They're never going to say there's aliens. They're never going to say that, even if it did happen, if it were real, if they did contact our retarded governments around the world, they're never going to say, hey, guess what? There are these entities that are more powerful than us. Why would they do that? Why would the people who have the most power say, guess what? We're actually, feckless and weak, and they have more power? No, they would keep it a secret. They would never tell us that unless they could present it in a way where they had control over the aliens somehow, or they're equal to them, which that doesn't make any sense. Or they're trying to pump up the military-industrial complex and say, it turns out it wasn't the biologics were not from Krypton or wherever. Scorbia, which is a made-up planet that we made up in a show years ago. Nevertheless, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, oh, actually it was China. Thank goodness we built this up as the war progresses. That's my opinion of it anyway. And they got to be in the ocean. The aliens are in the ocean. I think aliens probably exist personally. I just don't believe it when they say it. They've been telling us we were stupid for decades. And now they're saying the same things that conspiracy theorists have been called stupid and crazy for decades. I don't think so. They're not going to reveal shit. They're marketing that movie, that Spielberg movie that's come out, probably is what they're doing. I can't remember what it's called. It might even be called Disclosure. Matt Eyebrows Gates. Dude gets a lot of Botox, I'll tell you that. All right, one more thing. I don't know. I thought this is interesting. I didn't believe this was real at first. Hold on one second. So, as you guys know, I'm a basketball fan. And I saw this clip of J.J. Redick, who's the coach of the Lakers, being interviewed. I don't know if this is at halftime, because they do the interviews in between quarters and at halftime sometimes now. And Redick, played into the beliefs of many, many conspiracy theorists for a long time. Here's what he said. Redick could shoot it at Duke. He was good, and in the NBA, he's a good 3-point shooter for sure.
JJ, pretty impressive and efficient second quarter there on offense, especially. What did you see from your team get rolling there?
The ball stopped rattling in and out.
That helps usually in basketball.
When there's 5 of those shots in a quarter, it's a little odd.
All right, for sure. Second half.
What was that movie? I think it took place with the Washington Huskies or something. No, maybe that's a different movie. There's a basketball movie about that where they put a little electronic chip in the ball, and every time I got near the rim, they would make it rattle off.
I wish I knew, and I totally believe you. I totally believe you.
Zone was good for us in the second quarter. We slowed them down, held them to whatever, 18 points in the second quarter. Zone was good for us.
Thank you, JJ. Billy, let's get on that. Okay, let's research what movie. JJ, pretty impressive.
I believe the movie is Blue Chips, and Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway were in that movie. I'm pretty sure that's what that movie was. I remember that movie. The coach of the Lakers, was he joking? Didn't seem to be. There's been a lot of belief that there's magnets in the balls, that there's balls bouncing in funny ways. The air in the ball can do a lot of things. Balls can bounce in funny ways. I mean basketballs. So can testicles, but we're talking basketballs right now. But it's interesting to see that the Lakers coach, because the Lakers, it's not like the Lakers have one of the best records in the league. If anybody's going to be getting the benefit of something like that, it would be the Lakers. It'd be the bad teams, nobody that doesn't have a big market, that's not going to pump in the money if they go far in the playoffs. But nevertheless, I thought that was interesting. There's a lot of ways to rig sports. And with Polymarket coming up, and you can bet on almost individual shots, but definitely individual players, then it's really not beyond the realm of plausibility if they'd have chips in the balls. Who knows? Oh, I do want to show this, actually. Hold on one second. I want to show what you sent me, JC, because our other show, because the audio was so bad on it that I don't have it online yet because I was trying to fix the audio. But some of that video of it wasn't Chinese state propaganda, but it was like a Chinese made. We were showing examples of the Iranian propaganda and the American propaganda going on about the war on Friday night, and Josh was here playing Trump, and I just wanted to show some of this one again because it's so funny and ridiculous. I don't know who made it. But if you're going to make some propaganda, make it a little ridiculous. This is somewhere in China, apparently, and this is some propaganda portraying what the Iran-U.S. war is. Trump is a big bird.
你没事吧？
So tell me, what do you guys think about the squid here? I know some of you guys have seen this. The squid jumps on Bird Trump's face, and Bird Trump's eyes transform. He's being controlled by the squid. Who is the squid? Is the squid the Jews? Is that the implication here? Or is that some other power that be?
你是谁？来我家做什么？你是
That's the Meowatola. That's the Meowatola.
是不是打算用油来炸鱿鱼？我们只是研究拿来点灯用来生产而已呀！别听他狡辩，他搞出来是。
So it switches to it's daylight, then it switches to Trump's face, and it's a dark or Bird Trump. And it's a dark background because he's being possessed by this evil squid.
是想炸我们的，搞定他，把他炼油的东西都砸了。哼，还狡辩，没人比我更懂怎么用油。
This is the best part.
不过我们也不是不可以商量。你竟然偷袭我！你
He shoots the Meowatola right in the chest. He's ripped. He's big. And now it's
以
all
后他在
red.
院子里面石油都是我的了。
Why did he sink in the mud? I don't understand.
长老，打死他，给我们的长老报仇。
So all these are Iranians, I guess. They come in and they say, kill him, justice for the Meowatola. And for those listening, they're all human-sized people with cat heads. So it's like a hybrid human with a cat head. And instead of shooting him, this is what's funny about this. It's like depicting Trump poorly. And it's also like, well, here's how the Iranians fight war. All they do is throw rocks at people.
大哥怎么进去这么久？不是说下线那个老头就行了吗？
急什么？大哥一定会带给我们一个惊喜的。出事了！别管大哥了，快跑啊！
Oh, knocks the squid off.
哎呀，别打了，别打了！我一定会回来的哦。
He flies away. He'll be back. This is a really entertaining piece of propaganda there. Squid is probably Israel Netanyahu. Yeah, probably. It could be any number of. Could be Peter Thiel. It probably is Netanyahu. I wonder what the squid relation to Israel is, or what that means in China. It's got to mean something in China. The Chinese people can just be so racist. They're all very racist. And I'm not saying that in a critical way. I'm just saying we're very over here. They call us racist. We're not racist at all over here. I mean, they're perfectly racist almost. You know, the way they see it anyway. All right, that's gonna be the show. Get that. Why is that still showing there? Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Again, Helium Comedy Club Atlanta, Alpharetta. Sam Tripoli is going to be headlining. I will be opening. Get your tickets now. There is a 7 o'clock and a 9:30 show Saturday, April 4th, this upcoming Saturday. It will be a good time. It always is. Sam doesn't get through here a lot, so we're going to have fun and maybe have a few interesting things up our sleeve. We'll see. Propagandafight.com. If you guys want to get access to the subscriber-only content that I do with Sam and Austin Picard, go to patreon.com/propaganda report. Subscribe at the lowest tier. That's what we're doing right now. Or propreport.locals.com. You can get access to that. And if you subscribe to those, I also, for audio listeners only, I take out the ads for those who subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, then let the ads play through if you listen on audio. Because we don't get anything if the ads don't play through. Also, follow me on X at Freedom X Radio, YouTube.com/Brad Binkley, Rumble.com/Prop Report, Instagram, Propaganda Report, all the platforms. And you can find that link in my bio on X at Freedom X Radio. No feet pics, link in bio. Thank you guys. Smash that like. Leave a donation on YouTube, Rumble if you want. And whatever. If I had a slogan, I would say it right now, but I don't have one. Just go be happy and enjoy your lives and be kind. You guys have a fantastic rest of y'all's day.